If you ever hear a kid whisper, "Please, I won't do it again," from behind a bathroom door in a McDonald's, you don't just mind your own business. Not if you grew up like I did. At least I couldn't not after being the child nobody came back for. That's how I ended up kicking open that door one cold afternoon and finding a little girl on the floor, apologizing through tears over a piece of apple pie while her manager's stepmother squeezed her wrist like a vice. My name is Richard Hale. These days, people like to introduce me as a successful businessman, the founder of the Light Haven Center for Kids, the millionaire with a heart of gold. They never mention the boy I used to be, sitting on the side of the road, with a bag of stale crackers after both my parents died, learning in one long night that sometimes nobody comes back. I tell you that because it explains why that day at McDonald's changed everything. It was late one of those chilly afternoons where the sun is still up, but you can feel the day already giving up. I pulled off the highway when I saw the golden arches, needed coffee, a restroom, a break from emails piling up in my inbox. Parked my SUV and sat there for a moment, holding a small wooden box the kids at Light Haven had given me. On the lid in crooked wood burned letters they'd written, "Thank you for giving us a home base." It made me proud and hollow at the same time. Proud that we had built something safe hollow because nobody had ever written those words for me. Inside the restaurant was exactly what you'd expect. Fryers, hissing kids arguing over nuggets, the smell of salt and grease and floor cleaner. Behind the counter stood the manager, Martha Green, short, sturdy hair yanked into a bun, eyes sharp enough to cut. She adjusted the watch on her wrist, like she was timing everyone else's mistakes. Next to her, a skinny cashier named Ethan tried to joke about spilling a drink, then shut up when Martha glared. I took my coffee to a corner booth, let the glow from the menu boards blur out the day. Opened the little wooden box again and almost forgot where I was. Then I saw her. Near the back exit, half hidden by reflections on the glass, a tiny girl stood there like she wasn't sure she was allowed to exist inside that building. She had wind-tangled hair, a jacket 2 sizes too big and still too thin, and big hazel eyes locked on the hot apple pies under the heat lamps. You know that look someone has when they're trying to swallow their hunger down, like if they stare hard enough they might taste it. That was on her face. She eased the door open, slipped inside, and floated toward the counter as lightly as she could, as if making noise might get her kicked out before she even asked for anything. No one saw her except me. She stopped in front of the pies, fingers twitching at her sides. Before Ethan could say a word, Martha swooped in, grabbed the girl's arm, and snapped, "No! Out! This isn't a shelter! You can't keep coming in here!" The girl flinched, tried to pull back. "I just wanted to look," she whispered. A couple customers glanced over, then turned right back to their fries. Ethan's mouth tightened like he wanted to speak, but one look from Martha froze him. She dragged the girl away, not toward the main door, but down the back hallway toward the restrooms. That was the first moment my stomach knotted. I set my coffee down, left the wooden box on the table, and followed. From the corner, I could see the girl's small shoulders jolt each time Martha's hand dug in. I heard the bathroom door slam, then the sounds of the restaurant dulled, and another sound cut through. A thin, broken sob. "I'm sorry, I just wanted one little piece of pie," came this tiny voice from behind the door, and something in my chest just broke. I flashed back to being 10 years old, soaked and shivering, promising the night sky I would never ask for anything again if someone would just come back. No one did for me. I wasn't going to walk away from her. I didn't knock. I hit the door with my shoulder and kicked it open. The fluorescent light was harsh, bouncing off white tile. On the floor next to a cracked plastic tray, the girl was curled up, one knee, scraped hair hiding half her face. Martha stood over her cheeks, flushed, one hand clamped around that skinny wrist so tight I could see the skin whitening. "Let her go," I said. I didn't raise my voice. I didn't have to. I stepped between them gently, but firmly pried Martha's fingers off and moved the girl behind me so my body was a wall between them. She pressed into my back like she was trying to disappear into my coat. Martha smoothed her apron with her free hand, tried to reboot into professional mode. "Sir, you don't understand," she said, glancing at the doorway where Ethan and another employee had appeared wide-eyed. "This kid is my ex-husband's daughter. She's a runaway. She steals. I was just trying to get her home." The girl flinched at the word home like it hurt. I looked at Ethan. "Is that true?" He swallowed, glanced at Martha, then at us. "I've seen her around," he said quietly. "Out back by the dumpster. She never caused trouble. She just looked hungry." Martha spun toward him, ready to tear into him, but I held up a hand. "Enough," I said. "We're calling the police. They can figure out who's telling the truth." Ethan took out his phone with shaking hands. The girl, later I would learn her name was Lily, clutched the back of my jacket with both hands. I bent my head a little. "You're not in trouble," I told her. "Not even a little." That was the first time I saw her really look at me. The officers arrived, took statements in the harsh light of the lobby, while the friars kept hissing, as if nothing in the world had changed. Martha told her story first. Runaway discipline, a good woman pushed too far. Ethan, voice unsteady but honest, said, Lily had been around the back of the store a few times, always alone, always hungry, never stealing. I told them what I'd heard and seen, gave them my card, and asked that if they needed a safe placement for Lily, they consider Light Haven. By midnight, after social workers and signatures and calls I don't wish on anyone, Lily was asleep on a couch at the center, still holding a broken watch in both hands. Our doctor examined her and quietly wrote down what we already knew. She was malnourished, bruised, showing signs of long-term neglect. The next days were a slow unfolding. At meals, she ate like someone might yank the plate away. At night, she woke up from nightmares, whispering, "Daddy," into the darkness. Eventually, sitting with Sandra, our manager, she told us her story. Her father, David Parker, had been a construction engineer, a kind man who read her bedtime stories and gave her that watch before his last business trip. Her mother had died when she was small. After David's car accident 6 months earlier, only her stepmother, Martha, was left, and Martha had grown colder and meaner by the week, locking her out, leaving her alone, telling her to stop being dramatic when she cried from hunger. On the worst nights, she would creep to Mcdonald's and hope someone might give her scraps. That alone would have been enough injustice for a lifetime. But this story had another twist. One evening, something about David's name tugged at my memory, so I looked him up in our donor records. His name popped up right away. He had been a bronze-level donor to the Light Haven Foundation, for years, one of the people whose quiet generosity had kept us afloat. Not long after, a brown envelope arrived addressed to the center. Regarding the estate of Mr. David Parker. Inside was a copy of his will. Everything he owned, the house, a modest savings, a life insurance policy, about $300,000 in all, was to be left to his daughter Lily when she turned 12. If for any reason she could not claim it, the entire estate would be donated to the Light Haven Foundation. I sat at my desk with that document in my hands and felt this strange mix of gratitude and dread. The little girl sleeping down the hall was not only the daughter of one of our donors, she was also the person standing between that money and our center. I called Sandra in, showed her the will, and said, "We keep this quiet. If Martha finds out, Lily turns into a bank account in her eyes. Sandra nodded and locked the copy in our safe. I thought that might be enough to protect her. I was wrong. While we were focused on Lily's nightmares and scraped knees, Martha was focused on saving herself. She had been suspended from McDonald's. Her reputation was trashed. Harold Pierce, the franchise owner, cared more about his brand than the truth. Between a nervous former law firm employee who wanted cash and Martha's determination not to go down alone, they got their hands on the details of David's will. Suddenly, Lily wasn't just a child. She was $300,000 in leverage. Harold knew media. He arranged a sympathetic TV interview. Martha showed up in a pale sweater, clutching an old photo of Lily, tears gathering at all the right moments, as she talked about being robbed of her stepdaughter by an overreaching charity director. Harold sat beside her, saying they respected Light Haven, but that no organization should hold a child without family consent. People believed them. Half the comments defended us, the other half called me a kidnapper with a savior complex. Protesters showed up outside our gate with signs about transparency. The city sent inspectors to comb through our records. We passed everything, but doubt is hard to argue with, you know what I mean. While the public mess churned, Harold made his real move. He funded a legal petition in Martha's name accusing Light Haven of illegally detaining Lily and blocking her from seeing her mother. At the same time, Martha slipped a temp worker named Becca into our staff through an agency. Becca was warm, always bringing cookies, always finding time to sit with Lily. Slowly, she seeded a story that sometimes moms mess up, that they regret, that they want to make things right. One afternoon, she handed Lily an old photo of her and her dad with a note on the back. "Come home, your mother is waiting." By the end of the week, Becca had quit and vanished, and Lily sat on the back steps holding that picture, torn between the memory of being locked out and the desperate hope that somebody who hurt you might suddenly decide to love you. That was the emotional storm she was in when our lawyer, Mark Dalton, one of the first kids Light Haven ever took in, now an attorney for children's rights, walked into my office with a subpoena. Harold and Martha had filed for an emergency custody hearing. They wanted Lily back at least long enough to secure control over her inheritance, and they wanted to do it in front of cameras. The morning of the hearing, the steps of the Portland Civil Court were lined with reporters and protesters. Martha arrived in soft colors with tissues in hand. Harold wore his best, neutral businessman face. I walked in with Mark, Sandra, and Ethan, and with Lily clutching her worn teddy bear and my hand. In court, their attorney went first, calling Martha a loving mother, kept away from her child by a controlling millionaire, flashing photos of Lily from happier times, questioning our fundraising posts, and hinting that we were using her story to pull in donations. Then Mark stood, slid Lily's medical records and the social worker's transfer documents to the judge, and said, "Your Honor, we also have video from the night in question." Harold's lawyer tried to object, but Mark put down the forensic certification, proof that the file was a clean copy of the original McDonald's security footage. The lights dimmed a little, the screen flickered on, and the room watched what I had seen in real time. Tiny Lily in her torn jacket staring at apple pies, Martha grabbing her the hallway, the bathroom, the raised hand, the broken tray, my shoulder hitting the door, my body blocking a shaking child. There was no audio, but somehow everyone could hear that small voice begging for a piece of pie. When the video ended, you could feel the air change. The judge watched part of it again, then looked at Martha and asked if she had anything to say. The talk about discipline and stress landed like excuses, not explanations. Ethan stood and, voice trembling, but clear, told the court. Lily hadn't stolen anything. She had just asked if she could have a piece of pie they were throwing away. The ruling didn't take long. The court revoked Martha's guardianship, ordered that Lily remain in Lighthaven's care, and referred Harold's role in wiping footage and pushing a false narrative to the authorities for investigation. Reporters surged as we left questions flying, but all I really heard was Lily's voice beside me asking, "Do I have to go back now?" and my own answer, "No, sweetheart. You're going home." Life after that wasn't some picture-perfect fairy tale. Healing never is. Lily still flinched at sudden noises, still shut down when someone mentioned family, still held her father's watch on the nights she couldn't sleep. But she laughed more. She made friends. She and Maya drew a mural of a house with warm yellow windows and wrote Lighthaven under it in big crooked letters. The protests at our gate turned into people dropping off groceries and notes saying they believed in the work. Somewhere in there, the question of adoption stopped being a thought out in the back of my mind and started being a weight in my chest. I knew that officially adopting Lily might complicate how lawyers looked at her inheritance. I also knew that at the end of the day, money is rough comfort when a child is scared and alone. One spring morning with tulips blooming in the yard, I handed Lily an envelope. Inside were adoption papers with both our names. She read them slowly, lips trembling, then looked up and asked, "You really want me to be your daughter forever?" I told her the truth, that I didn't need another child at the center. I just needed her in this home. A few months later, she signed her new name, Lily Hale, and we hung her painting of a bright little house with two people standing under the roof in the living room. So now I want to ask you, if you had only seen the TV interviews before the bathroom video ever came out, who would you have believed first? The crying stepmother, the businessman, the charity, the quiet kid, or the underpaid cashier trying not to get fired for telling the truth? Do you think the judge was right to strip Martha of custody for good, or does someone like her deserve another chance if they say they want to change? Should someone like Harold face real consequences for how he twisted the narrative? Or is that just business these days? And be honest, have you ever seen something that felt wrong and stayed silent because speaking up would have cost you something? I really want to hear what you think. Whether you agree with how this ended or not, so tell me in the comments. Share your own experiences, your anger, your hope. Because the more we talk honestly about justice power and what we owe kids like Lily, the harder it is for the next child begging over a piece of pie to be ignored.